Now, thank you, everybody, for your comments. We're going to move on to the next story now. And we have to talk about limping on and something else Rishi's been reluctant to do all year. And for months and months and months now, is talk to the striking workers or their unions about their requests for better working conditions, health and safety, and so on within the NHS, or their pay. And they've repeatedly said, the unions, that they will take an offer and they want to negotiate, they want to come to the table. And here we are today, Kevin, with the General Secretary of Unite saying that they'll take a 10% pay offer. Now, it seems to me, firstly, that the negotiations are happening in the papers, which is probably a bad idea. And secondly, that the union's position is coming down and down and down and down, while the government is actually holding fairly firm. I hate to say it, I'm aware you might explode, but is this the unions beginning to crumble? Because they seem to be asking for less and less.
Yeah, I think they're professional negotiators. It's what they do for a living, and they look for common ground all the time. And normally employers will engage. It'll be a dance between the two, while the government is just deciding to spend taxpayers' money on these disputes going on and on and on. We saw the Transport Minister that covers rail, Hugh Merriman, saying it would have been cheaper for the economy to have settled the rail dispute some time ago. It's been going on since June last year, rather than just the government allowing tiny offers, blocking offers, attaching strings, cutting strings, and essentially going nowhere. But unions, used to happen in the 19th century. Employers would try and starve workers back to work. There's a bit of that going on with the government now, but it's losing the PR battle. I think that's what's unexpected for ministers. Real strikes aren't as popular as they were, but there's huge support for nurses in particular, something like 2 to 1. But the government decided to tough it out, but it's getting no political dividend for it.
No, they don't seem to be looking tough or good as a result of it. But if the unions keep having to offer less, then, I mean, is this because they can sense blood and they know if they just say the government will tumble, or is it because they're actually having to offer less because that's the only way they're going to get anywhere?
Well, I think they know that I would have thought each strike, after a certain point, people become more reluctant to do it. That's not to say they won't do it. But if you're a trade union negotiator and you're rallying people, and ministers can just spend our money endlessly, taxpayers' money, but trade union leaders know unions have limited funds and people's budgets are tight, so they've got to appear reasonable. I think that's what they're attempting to do. They're being reasonable, while the government's just been very pig-headed about it. So, yeah, you go to a point in many disputes I've seen over 30 years when people are thinking, right, we just want to stop this and get out. Maybe there's a little bit of that in some cases, but I think the rest is they are trade union leaders, they are professional negotiators, and however they're demonised and whatever scaremongering and smearing of government ministers, they're also essentially pragmatic and reasonable at the end of the day. I think it's the government that's taken the ideological stand here. Strikes in this wave, because the prices have soared and the cost of living has been absolutely battered down a record level. They're essentially defensive. They're about people trying to protect their living standards, hard won over many years and decades, and then just vanishing very quickly.
But of course, as well, if the government holds out a bit longer and inflation continues to come down, whatever they have to settle in the end will be less than they had to settle for at the start. So perhaps that's worth bearing in mind as well. We'll have to see, won't we, if Rishi ever actually does do a deal. We'll have to find out how that goes. Now, keep asking your questions, everybody. Get into the comments. We can wrap up at the end. How do you feel about Nadeem Zahawi? Do you think he should be fired? Do you think he should still be chairman of the Tory party? What do you think Rishi can do about the problems he's got and the sleaze? And do you think that the unions should go for 10%? Do you think the government should do a deal, bring everything to an end? Get into the comments and let us know.